and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Peter Counter and I'm the editor-in-chief of Fine Biometrics, which recently reported live from Identiverse 2022 in Colorado. Our own Doug O'Gordon was on the show floor at the conference interviewing the identity industry leaders in attendance, and that's why on this special episode of ID Talk, O'Gordon interviews Chris Briggs, Vice President of Product for Mitek. The conversation starts with a showcase of Mitek's latest advancement, a consolidated platform made possible by the acquisition of ID R&D and HooYu. In addition to breaking down those major acquisitions and the new MiVIP product, Briggs digs into the growing demand Mitek is seeing in travel and hospitality, financial services, and online gaming. He breaks down evolving trends in identity tech and how the landscape has changed for Mitek over the past 18 months before getting into the importance of education when it comes to the ethical use of biometrics. It's a wide-ranging conversation about all the hot topics in identity, and so now it's time to get straight to it. Here is Fine Biometrics' Doug O'Gordon in conversation with Mitek's Chris Briggs, recorded live at Identiverse.
Hi, Fine Biometrics listeners. Doug O'Gordon here. I'm sitting with Chris Briggs. Chris is the VP of Product at Mitek, and we're at Identiverse 2022 in Denver, Colorado. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks for chatting.
We've already had more fun than I should have. So,
right? And it's only first thing in the morning.
So it's 10 o'clock. So first question is, what are you showcasing here at Identiverse 2022, Chris?
So Mitek as an organization is showing the next advancement that we have within our platform from a product perspective. So we have a legacy that's focused traditionally around document verification, and over the course of the last 18 months, we've advanced that with a couple of acquisitions. And the consolidated platform that we are actually going to use to have all of those features and functions in the same place.
Now, don't be shy. What were those two acquisitions? Because they weren't small.
They were not small. So we actually purchased a biometrics company called ID R&D, and most recently, a company that focuses on identity orchestration based out of the UK, which is called HooYu. And the combination of legacy Mitek plus biometrics allows us, with the orchestration, some pretty sophisticated ways of being able to tackle fraud in the industry.
Yeah, and that's what we were just talking about before
Exactly.
this. Before we hit record, when we said, wow, we should be recording this.
Right, exactly.
Well, I'll move on. This year we've seen major demand and growth for identity and biometrics in air travel, your old stomping ground, hospitality and retail sectors, as well as the hybrid workplace. What are the vertical markets that you see most traction in this year?
Doug, you're right. We've seen a ton over the course of the sort of last 18 months, but even more specifically since travel has come back in vogue. In that space, it's gone like gangbusters, and you've seen announcements from other firms digitizing IDs or using biometrics to be able to pass through a security checkpoint in new and different types of ways. At Mitek, we're also seeing that same type of growth, probably in financial services, but it's not just the big banks that are doing it as well. You're seeing it with some of the marketplace companies, whether they are trying to aggregate different types of services for travel in and around specific services like car rental or home rentals or vacation rentals, things like that, being more and more focused around the use of orchestrated fraud, specifically biometrics as a part of that. And then even more specifically, things like age verification for online gaming has actually been something that's been really interesting as that becomes more and more of a concern from many parents as well as many businesses to ensure, in fact, that they're both hitting the regulatory standard as well as some of the standards in and around privacy.
I was just going to say on the Airbnb or the rental properties, wouldn't it be great? Like, you can never get in the front door when you get there, right?
Right.
If biometrics were there, you'd be able to get in like immediately.
Exactly.
You always got to find the
keys. Or somebody to show up or someone to tell you what you're doing. And you're actually seeing that if you look at sort of enterprise rentals, say your apartment complex down the street, you are starting to see that emerge where you're integrating biometrics into devices so that you can actually self-guided tours or other types of services.
We called it Cretech. I mean, it's kind of that Cretech industry.
Exactly.
Making building
smarter and easier to access, less friction for the consumer, and goes to 24 hours.
Less friction for the consumer and less friction for the business because the consumer doesn't know how to work it.
Correct. Or you don't have to necessarily have a security guard at every single entrance to every single part of the building.
Bingo. That's my old industry.
Right. So. Exactly.
All right. The past few years, we've seen soaring popularity in contactless biometrics, selfie onboarding, and IDV technology, and the emergence of mobile IDs. How have recent trends affected your company, and what do you see as major differentiators in this landscape?
So it is changing. In many ways, it's staying the same because some of these topics that we've been talking about are sort of what you've heard year over year over year.
The convergence that hasn't happened.
Convergence, the idea that we're going to have digital IDs is not necessarily a recent coming into the industry, but I think what is different over the last sort of 18 months into and out of COVID, interestingly enough, as a forcing function of what's going on in the industry, is this concept that it is real and it can be used for organizations to be able to support some of the things that they're doing in the industry. So how has it changed for Mitek as an organization? We've really focused on evolving sort of our core legacy capabilities in and around document verification, whether it's actually a check or whether it's a driver's license or a passport, into new and different types of biometric modalities. So thinking about face and voice and the ability to be able to capture, to be able to match, and then at the end of the day to be able to check liveness on all of those key components introduces the ability to much more effectively manage that interaction between a consumer and his or her device, or more effectively their journey as they're renting a vacation rental, or they're actually trying to do something in an e-commerce buy something journey.
Sure. All right. With increasing regulations around privacy and high-profile controversies affecting public perception around biometrics and identity, there's a widespread notion that education is key for the continued success of our industry. How does your organization approach educating users around the safe, ethical use of biometrics?
So within Mitek, we're very focused on education as a key component of ethical use of biometrics. Specifically, we spend quite a bit of time with our clients, whether it's a big bank, whether it's a marketplace customer, whether it's another customer that's trying to enter into the biometric space overall, educating them on the concepts. What does it mean to have a forgery? What does it mean to have a false positive? What does it mean to have a false negative? As it relates to someone walking in the front door, what's the risk associated with that? And what does it actually mean if they're looking at the people that are using their services? And then there's the element of things like bias in ethical use of biometrics, which we're constantly testing bias and whether or not the specific biometrics are biased and are treating specific individuals uniformly across the platform. We've had some recent tests and processes that we've gone through that have said that our biometric processes are in fact not biased and allow us to be able to operate in a much more uniform way across different actors within that space. And then there's a consumer component of that as well, helping to educate consumers on what exactly that means, what it means from a privacy perspective, what it means in terms of creating a frictionless experience, and really what that trade-off is. So You'll see white papers, you'll see a number of different publications that go out in the industry that talk about that balance from a customer and a consumer perspective.
Great. We did touch on the HooYu and the ID R&D thing, which was my really last question, but is there anything you want to add to the acquisition, the news, how it's going? It's been recent, so...
Yeah, it has been quite recent, especially on the HooYu side, bringing them into the fold over the course of the last few months. So today actually does launch the new platform that is going to integrate the orchestration into what we are calling MiVIP, which will actually allow clients to be able to integrate all of these core capabilities, documents, biometrics, authentication, as well as manage various different types of data signals across a process. That comes into the North American market today. We already are deploying that within the European environment, even as we speak. So it's that, and then advancing those core capabilities with some of our clients who are looking to get deeper into biometrics. They want to understand what are the various fraud vectors that are being exposed in the marketplace and how that changes on a day-to-day basis, and how our solutions then can keep the pace with what's going on in the industry. And we sincerely believe with the launch of this platform, we are really focused on keeping that pace and becoming, well, really continuing to be a market leader as it relates to these key components of digital identity, fraud, and making sure that the internet's a safe place for people to travel.
I think we just found the headline for this this audio podcast is launching, what's it called again?
MiVIP.
MiVIP.
Correct.
So you heard it first here. What's the best way for our audience to get a hold of you or Mitek should they want to reach out to you?
Sure. I mean, of course, I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. You can also reach out to me personally, or you can actually get in touch with Mitek as the organization. More than happy to connect you with the right person inside of our team that can give you the right type of information about the right type of solution you're looking for.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for your time and enjoy the next couple days here.
Thanks so much, Doug. I really appreciate it. Talk
Cheers.
soon.
Bye.
And so concludes our interview with Chris Briggs, Vice President of Product for Mitek. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, visit miteksystems.com. And for more recaps on the recent Identiverse conference, stay posted to findbiometrics.com. I want to thank Chris for being a part of this episode, and thank you to Doug O'Gordon for conducting the interview. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk Podcast.